Well, it happened. Neal Brown has been fired. Reports coming out everywhere, and he'll no longer be affiliated with the West Virginia football program. What does that mean? And where do we go next? Those are important questions, and we're going to answer them on this episode of Locked On West Virginia.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up? Welcome in, guys. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host, and I am here for the biggest news story in years for West Virginia football. Neal Brown to be let go, according to Matt Zenitz of 247 Sports. West Virginia is set to fire head coach Neal Brown, sources tell me. Whew, that's a lot. This episode is brought to you by none other than Game Time, guys. Don't forget to download the Game Time app and save money, $20 off when you do that. Thank you for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen every single day and for being part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we talk about your team every single day. Here we are, guys. We are in the midst of change that probably wasn't going to be made. We found out over the last 24 hours since the huge debacle at Texas Tech. We have found out that through Hoppy Kirchhoff on three guys today that Ren Baker and Gordon Gee wanted to keep Neal Brown, but have had to fold under public pressure. So here we are, public pressure. And if you want to know how much people were looking into this, 300 people were waiting for me to go live on this video, and I announced it 10 minutes ago. That's how many people wanted this to happen. You'll be hard-pressed to find anybody watching this right now or listening on podcast that wanted Neal Brown to stay another year at West Virginia. The experiment was over. And, man, what an embarrassing loss that was yesterday, no doubt. And here we go. So I'm going to build a case for why I think it happened. And I've stolen this from just different tidbits I've seen on X the last couple of days. Different pieces of things that I've said, oh yeah, that's interesting. So I've got a little bit of a soliloquy here. If you'll just stick with me. Neal Brown won 37 games at West Virginia in 6 seasons as coach. Of those 37, 6 came against FCS opponents, meaning outside of the FCS, he was 31-35 as a head coach against FBS teams. Of those 31 teams, 11 were bowl eligible eventually or at some point in that season. Kansas State, Army, TCU, Virginia Tech, Iowa State, Baylor, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, UCF, and North Carolina, all in different seasons. Of those, only 2 won their bowl game. So 2 of the 11 won their bowl game. Also, of those 11 teams who were bowl eligible that Brown beat over his time at West Virginia, 7 of those finished with a winning record. So only 7 teams that finished the season with a winning record in 6 years, meaning 24 of his 31 wins came against teams who finished below 500 at year's end. Of the 7 teams who finished, I know it keeps going. Of the 7 teams who finished above 500, only 4 finished more than 1 game above 500. And that was Kansas State, Army, TCU, North Carolina, and Army, the only of those 4 to finish with more than 8 wins. So 1 team with 8 wins or more in 6 years. His opponent's winning percentage by year, excluding FCS, 20-29 in 2019, 21-29 in 2020, 25-37 in 2021, 28-35 in 2022. They were 45-66 in 2023, and 21-39 here in 2024, which was the worst. So a grand total of teams beaten, 160-235 was their final record. 0 weeks ranked in the AP poll, 0 wins against teams who finished ranked, 4 wins against teams who were ranked at the time, and he was 4-18 versus ranked teams. 3-18, apologies. 10-game losing streak dating back to Virginia Tech against ranked teams. It's just been an absolute debacle for Neal Brown. Somebody posted this on X, and I found it to be interesting. Kalen DeBoer got hired in 2019 as the offensive coordinator at Indiana. Draw a parallel between him and Neal Brown. From then on, he goes to be the head coach of Fresno State. Then he goes to be the head coach of Washington, goes to the national final, and then replaces Nick Saban at Alabama. In that time, Neal Brown hasn't been ranked or beaten a team that finished ranked. We closed the book on Neal Brown's era, where we can say a lot that he did wrong on the field. Not much that I can say about the guy outside of this year that I could disagree with. There were press conferences this year that you scratched your head at. There were things that he had said in the past that were like, what? You know, he was notoriously ride or die with the players and coaches that he liked and enjoyed. And at the end of the day, he went out on his shield in a lot of ways, man. He's very, very stubborn guy. You know, that's the best way I can put it. Neal Brown is one of those guys that, you know, for instance, this year, West Virginia had been receiving, if they had the opportunity and won the coin toss, they had decided to receive every kick. And for 18 straight games, West Virginia got the kick until that was broken a week ago against UCF. And what happened? West Virginia dominated the middle eight. Imagine that. Going on defense first has its benefits, even when you have a bad defense. And so it was just little decisions like that where Neal Brown went against the grain, and maybe it felt like he was too smart or the smartest guy in the room. You know, there's a lot. So what will happen with Neal next? I think a lot of people are looking at UMass, and my source at UMass, I haven't spoken to since I dropped an update a couple weeks ago here when I told you guys 2 weeks ago that my source said that he was a candidate there. And lo and behold, here it is. It's coming out again today. Football Scoop has said that the president at UMass is looking at Neal Brown hard, doing background info, etc. So that'd be a great landing spot for him. I think he could turn a program like UMass around. It's low risk, high reward kind of situation for them because Neal has got a lot of experience now, and he's already turned around a Group of 5 program. So I would feel good about a Neal Brown UMass situation. I think that's great for him. The fishbowl effect at West Virginia is one that I think got to Neal Brown, especially towards the end of his tenure. You don't go anywhere you're not recognized, and 1.8 million people hang on every single thing you do. And I think it got to him at the end of this year. In press conference, he was saying things that were out of character. You know, whether it was is the weather nice comments or we're not 0-10. You know, there were comments that a lot of people it did not resonate with, people that, you know, maybe in West Virginia we're just a poor state, a lot of people would say, and a lot of us have to save money for months on end to even go to a game. So to say that we have no right to be upset, even though he didn't come out directly and say that, it was indirectly, right? Well, at least the weather's nice. Well, at least we compete. You know, I think to slam the book on how I feel about Neal Brown is, you know, everybody says it. It's not a surprise that I'm going to say it. He's a great guy. He is a great guy. He had character. He represented our state well. But that's where it ended. I didn't agree with his coaching decisions a lot of times. I didn't agree with his personnel decisions a lot of times. I didn't agree with the way he recruited a lot of times. I didn't agree with this, a lot of his assistant hires. And look, he could have been handicapped by various things that I'm not aware of. But there was a lot I didn't agree with that I didn't voice because, you know, I'm not a coach. I'm just a fan and journalist, I guess. You know, somebody that loves this state and this university and this team. And it's hard when you're in love with something not to get emotional and mad about that. So I tried to bite my tongue because there's a lot of people that held on to the very end with Neal Brown, and I understand why he did that. We were in a situation where we kind of felt like we had no out, and so we made our voices heard. I think over the last 24 hours, especially, I think if Ren Baker didn't get it, he gets it loud and clear now. Neal Brown had to be fired. It had to be done. It's not you, it's me. So that's where we ended up, guys. What went wrong? I think we'll get to that next. And also, who are some hot names, some early candidates that I personally think could win at this job? Well, I think there's some names that are pretty hot out there right now that I would love to tell you about. Stick around for that. This is Locked On West Virginia. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia is going to be brought to you by Mint Mobile, guys. I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals just to save a few bucks because it has to be easy, right? No hoops, no BS, don't want anything hard. Well, Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, and I called them on it. Turns out it is really that easy to get a wireless plan for $15 a month. And the longest part of the process was the time I spent on hold willing to break up with my old provider. To get started, go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege, and there you'll see that right now all 3-month plans are basically $15 a month, including the unlimited plan, which everybody loves. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk delivered on the nation's largest 5G network, and you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan. Heck, you can even bring your old number along with your existing contacts. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan, just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. That's mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege and cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at Mint Mobile. There is a $45 payment up front required, which is the equivalent of $15 a month. New customers on that first 3-month plan only. Speeds are slower than 40 gigs on the unlimited plan. There is additional taxes, fees, and restrictions that apply. But at the end of the day, guys, go see Mint Mobile for details. We are back here on Locked On West Virginia. There's 800 people in here right now, so please be kind in the chat. I saw some people arguing. Let's not do that, guys. At the end of the day, I think this is something we have to be happy about. For those of you listening on podcast, I appreciate you guys as well very much. And this is going to be an interesting time for West Virginia fans, I think. And we're in kind of uncharted waters because the last coach kind of left, right? Dana left. The coach before that kind of passed away on us, even though there was a head coach succession plan set up for Dana. So we haven't had a full-on coaching search and change since when? Don Neyland to Rich Rod, maybe. I think because the moving into Dana, that was an odd situation. How that was played out. It's been a while since we've actually just had a coaching search. Bill Stewart obviously kept the job from interim, being on the staff with Rich Rod. So it's been a while since we've done this, guys, and it's going to be wild. I would love to know who people think fit this job because there's a lot of names floating around out there. I would say Jimbo Fisher would be the number one person that a lot of people talk about, right? And you guys know how I feel about him. If you guys want to see a cool episode on that, and there will be more coming, by the way. I brought on Locked On Aggies to talk about what it was like being under Jimbo, and he did a really good job coming in here and being kind of honest about that. I had Coos on as well, which a lot of you guys know, and he did a good job representing the pro-Jimbo side, I think, more the pro-Jimbo side, because I'm the anti-Jimbo side. I have reasons for that. Sorry about that. My mouth is getting dry. So my reasons for against Jimbo, and I just got done talking to my buddy Sean about this, who used to be a channel sponsor of mine. Jimbo went 2 straight years, over 700 days without winning a road game at Texas A&M from 21 to 23. He lost to an FCS team during that time. He was 6-12 versus Power 4 opponents over the last 2 seasons at Texas A&M. He was just bad there, guys. 26-21 against SEC opponents. People see the 45-25, and yes, I understand that record's not bad in and of itself. But it's kind of like with Neal Brown and the 6-6 this year. You got to look beyond it and see that Neal Brown didn't beat a team with a pulse this year. Same thing with Jimbo. So I would plead to you to look a little deeper at Jimbo because, in my opinion, there are better people out there for the job. People were saying Kotelnicki in the chat. I think he would be a great place to start. There are others. I think, Kotelnicki is an interesting name, obviously, because of the Kansas connection. He's already coached in the Big 12. He knows what that's all about. And I would be interested to see how he would do here. I think he would definitely bring in good quarterbacks. There were some other guys that people want to see. Rich Rod being a name. I'm all for it. I know there's not a lot of people that are, but man, he just won 8 straight and won the conference, didn't he? I mean, he really played well. Some people like Barry Odom, and I could see why people would like Barry Odom, that go-go offense with Marion at offensive coordinator. But all you have to do is go and look at what his tenure looked like at Missouri to kind of get I don't know about that one. Plus, he's got a pretty good thing going at UNLV. But, I mean, he would be a name that I'll be in the middle on, right? I think it's better than Neal Brown, but I wouldn't be just completely just stoked about it. Keep it chopping. I think Chip Kelly is a name that, for me anyways, culturally would be a very interesting fit in West Virginia. And I don't think he'd be married to the job either. That's the other thing. I don't think Chip Kelly's a guy that would stick around in West Virginia if things started going well. I think he could be lured away from any big job at that point. Let's just be honest. West Virginia is going to be a really hard turnaround, guys. We're in the worst spot we've literally ever been in as a program. We've never been in a worse spot. We've lost our mojo. Coming into the Big 12, we had just come off 3 BCS games in a national championship in the last, 20 years before that? A national championship appearance and another one where we just missed it by 1 game. That's not us anymore. And I think a lot of us still think that we expect others to remember who we were and who we are. And at the end of the day, we ain't no more. We are a team that has struggled in the Big 12 for 12 years now, guys. We have to adjust our expectations for the next coach and just pray that he takes off and does what Rich Rod did. But without support financially, especially, I don't know, is this going to be a year 0 kind of situation? The new coach coming in, will he be able to have the full extent of money available for the revenue sharing? I don't know, guys. I think they spelled it out to us. I think we all chose here. We could have chose Neal Brown and full revenue share, or change coach and maybe not have that. Maybe that's where we're at. And if we are, I think we have to accept that we're going to be a couple years off and be patient with the next guy. But here's the thing. Our fan base isn't going to be that way. After year 1 to year 2 at most, if he's not winning, people are going to really freak out. And I don't know that he's walking into a fair situation like Neal kind of. So I don't know. We're going to have to have somebody really strong come in here and change the tide. And your guys' guess is as good as mine on who that's going to be. It's got to be a culture fit. It's got to be somebody that wants to be here long term. And it's got to be somebody that's really creative with fundraising and making money. I think Rich Rod's interesting because he has always done more with less. You've got to have a guy that can do more with less. Jimbo did less with more at Texas A&M, right? He had Ohio State money. They could have spent $20 million on the roster if they wanted to. Number one recruiting class of all time in 2022. And yet and still underperformed, Alex out really 1 year there. So I think it's important to mention Rich Rod did a lot more with less, but in a different era, right? No portal at West Virginia when he was here. So if I'm going to, I have to be fair on both sides of that. Just like I say, people want to bring up Jimbo Fisher and his success at Florida State. We don't live in that era anymore, guys. We live in an era of college football where there's no more get a 2.5-star, 3-star guy and develop him over 4 years, make him a 4-star guy that can compete like our West Virginia teams did. That's impossible. Like, you might get 1 or 2 guys like to do that. But these kids aren't trapped at schools anymore. So if they have success, they're going to want to leave, and you got to have the money to pay them to stay now. And it just doesn't work like that anymore. So Jimbo at West Virginia, how are you going to make that work when he's a guy that, in my opinion, was best over 4 years when you could develop a team and whip them into shape and micromanage it to your specifications? Similar to Neal. I think Neal would have worked in that scenario too. I think he's the guy that, I don't know how they would have developed him, but over 4 years without any transfers, I think it would be better for them. So in the portal era, you got to have somebody successful in this new era. Maybe it's Cole Nicky. We haven't seen him do that yet. Maybe it's Garrett Riley at Clemson. I'm a big fan of his. Nobody brings him up, but I think the Riley name is big. And look, he was the offensive coordinator at TCU, and he took that team all the way to the college national championship. So, and then now he's at Clemson, and they're humming again. Give that guy a mobile quarterback, and he's good, right? One of those Max Duggan type players. I think, and you also look and say, hey, who from Clemson might come with him? And that's not reason to hire a coach, obviously, but I think everything else he's done, I'll take him over any group of 5 guy available right now, over Chadwell, anybody. So that. Garrett Riley's really turned into my guy here lately. Schumann at Georgia has taken a hit for me, but I still think he's great. I still think he would be a good pick because that was Kirby Smart's first hire when he was at Georgia. He's got several national championships in the portal era, so as a D coordinator. So I think he would be interesting too. Up next on Locked On West Virginia, guys, we'll talk about a few more hot names, and we'll talk about the next show I'm going to do because it's going to have to be on more hot names. This is Locked On West Virginia. And this episode is brought to you in part by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets. That's if you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page you place your bets. That's at FanDuel.com. Go there today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, guys, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. All right, so I think we've gone over a few names here. I'm going to look over on X and see if any other news has been added, if anything else has been said. Brody McWhorter says, wow, which is a West Virginia quarterback recruit, 4 stars. Aiden Garnes has kind of put an unsmiley face. Pete Thamel is now reporting Neal's buyout is at $9.7 million. That was 29 minutes ago. So that's pretty interesting. I thought it was moving down to 6.5, but I guess that's right. They had to wait till the bowl game. That's right. I totally forgot about that. Yeah. So it's an interesting time to be a Mountaineer fan, guys. Oh, man. This is crazy. I'll tell you what. I think there was a time when this, like I said earlier, guys, they wanted to keep Neal Brown. I still can't get over it. To be honest, I can't because I think if that Texas Tech had happened, like if they'd have won or the game was close, I think there's a shot we keep Neal, which blows my mind to even think that was a possibility. Kind of scary, but I think. And here's another thing, another hot take before we go off here. I think Gordon Gee was the big reason Neal was sticking around. If you, just my opinion, I have no inside knowledge to that. It's just an opinion. But I think Gordon Gee was the biggest Neal Brown fan ever. And I think he wanted him to stay and try to work things out. Just my opinion. I mean, I've heard others talk about this too. So he's not been good for us, guys. The sooner he can retire, the better, in my opinion. So I don't know. We'll see. Who else is on West Virginia's hot board, guys? I think On3 just released something on that. So maybe I'll do a show on that here in a couple hours. I am going to look over some names really quick. I think that'll be really fun. Let's see. It's not going to let me. So what I'll do is I'll get I'll either get somebody to send me over a screenshot or I will just subscribe myself and see what the hot board candidates look like. I'll be doing another show tonight, probably 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock on hot board candidates. I want to stay on here. There's over 1,000 people in here right now. Before I'll let you go, Locked On West Virginia on YouTube. There is 649 watching on X, 352 on YouTube. So do me a favor, guys. Locked On West Virginia on YouTube. Come over here, hit that subscribe button. I'm here 5 days a week, usually 7. I usually post 7 days a week. I do. I usually come up with something. I'll cover West Virginia women's basketball. I'll cover West Virginia men's basketball, and I cover the football team, obviously, extensively, and have multiple contacts throughout. So I will do my best to bring you guys news as this goes along. Those in the chat can tell you that I'm good for my word. I don't get on here and lie about nothing. If I don't have something, I don't have it. I will tell you. At Paul Mountaineer on X. If you're watching me here on X, do me a favor and hit that follow button over on X too. If you're watching this on X or if you're on YouTube and want to go to at Paul Mountaineer, I would appreciate that too, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me. This is going to be an interesting time in West Virginia football history. Let's hope we just get the right guy, right? I hope that whoever it is we get, I would love it to be Rich Rod and him be successful. I think that'd be the best story from a content creation standpoint. I think getting Rich Rod, even some fans would hate it, but if he came back and was successful and won everybody over again and maybe got us to the playoff or something crazy, this is my fan brain right now. Don't pay attention to fan brain when it's on, but I think something like that would be amazing, guys. And let's just pour into this program all that we've got. If they need my money, if they need my help, if they need me to speak about whatever they need me, like you want me to host a recruit virtually, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. And I think that's the attitude we should all have. It's easy to talk about the problem, much harder to bring a solution to the problem, right? I want to be a part of the solution and not the problem. Let's all be solution-oriented thinkers and be proactive and do what we can for the university guys and the players because they're the ones that get hurt the worst when these things happen. That's it. I'm off my little soapbox here. Thanks for joining, and I love you guys, man. I'm really happy that you guys showed up in droves like you did today. Anthony Becht is a name I just saw. I could not see it. That would be an interesting name. I think that would have the thing. Here's the thing. The search would have to go wrong for an Anthony Becht to get the job. While I think he could be successful, I do. I just think there are other names that would be better suited for it. He would be. I think we have to kind of get past the West Virginia connection thing for this one. There just isn't very many guys. Jimbo, Saban, Rich Rod, right, and Tony Gibson. Trickett just got fired, so he's not even going to be, over at Coastal Carolina as the OC, so he's not going to be a guy. So, I mean, of the three, Jimbo's the only option I could possibly see being legit off top, but maybe Rich Rod can sneak in here. So we'll see. We'll see. All right, guys, I'll be back in 3 hours for another show. We'll do some names. I'm going to be doing my research for the next 3 hours. I'm going to have a lot of names. We're going to go through them and vet them out and see what you guys think. I'll see you here at 7:30-ish Eastern time, guys. So I'll see you then. Until then, guys, thank you for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen. If you can do me a favor, make Locked On Big 12 your second listen of the day, guys. Drake Toll leads the conversation in conference realignment news and pulls no punches when it comes to covering every team in the Big 12. Find Locked On Big 12 on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. And I'll see you next time, guys. Neal Brown is out after 6 years of West Virginia at head coach. We'll talk about who's going to be next later. Until then, I'm out.